Well, you getting ready for that Super Bowl party? Well, stay tuned. I have some ideas for you. Welcome to this week's episode. Well, I know everyone's getting excited and ready for the Super Bowl. So I thought in this week's episode, why don't we take a look at three very typical big heavy apps that everyone likes to serve at their Super Bowl party. But I want to give you some wine options. Yes, I know everyone's going to have plenty of beer, but you may have some guests or even yourself, and you'd like to try some wines. So I have three wines we're going to look at this week that can go with three specific appetizers I have in mind, but they're so food friendly and crowd pleasing that you can mix and match however you want to. So stay to the end and I'll even share with you my favorite football snack and wine pairing. So let's get ready for the Super Bowl and take a look at all these wines. So we'll look at the very first wine recommendation, and it's the Chateau Ste Riesling from Washington State. What a great crowd pleasing wine the Riesling is anyway. And so many of you are going to have buffalo wings, obviously, for the football party. But as you know, sometimes those are like the hot and spicy kind, or sometimes they're sweet and sour. Sometimes they have Old Bay seasoning on them. So I think no matter how you make your wings, this Riesling is going to go really well with that. And if you haven't had the Chateau Ste Riesling, I think you're really going to enjoy it. Lots of floral notes, white floral notes, green apple, and some peach. It has some nice acidity, which you're going to need because buffalo wings, sometimes they're baked, but usually fried. And the Riesling can really handle some of those hot and spicy typical wings. And you know what? If you get a chance, I had something when I was at a pub in Philadelphia a few months ago, and it was buffalo cauliflower. So if you have vegetarian friends and you want to give it a try, I'll see if I can find the recipe and include it in here. But I have seen it at Trader Joe's. So there's nothing like something like a cauliflower, fried cauliflower, and to go with that Riesling too. So that Riesling can go with so many different items. I think you're going to be really pleased that you served Riesling for your Super Bowl party. And if you get a chance, Chateau Ste up in Washington State. If you're visiting Seattle, it's a very easy day trip. And they have some really great wine experience tours you can do. Everything from blending wine to how do you really identify all the notes in wine. So I highly recommend it. I enjoyed it the last time I was there, and it's just a great winery. Highly recommend the Chateau Ste Riesling, and all of their wines are really quite nice. Affordable, food-friendly, crowd pleaser. It's going to be a hit at your Super Bowl party. So I know many of you are going to definitely have a giant crock pot full of pulled pork and maybe some potato buns. And what a great Super Bowl party item that is. Well, to go with that sort of barbecue pulled pork at your party, I think we should go with the Zinfandel. And I really have been enjoying this one lately at our house. So it's the Federalists Zinfandel from Lodi, California. And they have a few different ones. This is the one that I've chosen. I think you'll know it's Zinfandel right away if you haven't had one. I think it's a good crowd pleaser too. Lots of blackberry and blueberry notes. It has some good acidity to help get you through that pulled pork, and very full-bodied, robust red wine. In fact, for some people I know who maybe they weren't too crazy about red wine, Zinfandel seems to be one of those red wines that can kind of win the crowd over. So I think this is a great one to have on hand. And maybe you're going to serve meatballs, the sweet and sour meatballs that sometimes are in crock pots too and remind me of my childhood, or even sliders. So you've got the bases covered. So your Super Bowl party is Zinfandel. I think you'll be in really great shape. And the same winer's been experimenting lately with some bourbon barrel-aged Zinfandel, and then they have a red blend too. So maybe give those a try, especially if you have some people at the party. They like red wine, and they like bourbon. I sure do. Maybe you want to pull that one out and give it a try, and then let me know what you think. So let's talk about our third option. And I found this really cool wine lately. And it's called Crazy Legs Red Hop Blend. And believe it or not, it's red wine with hops. And I thought this would go well with sort of everything else that you're going to have at the Super Bowl party, right? All the assorted appetizers, the dips, especially the 7-layer dip, and anything, even including hot dogs. So it's a really flexible wine. And I think for maybe the beer lovers that you have on hand, this might be a really cool thing for them to try. So it's very light-bodied, juicy. It's going to remind you of cherry juice in a way, and no tannins really whatsoever. I don't think I had any tannins in it. And I think it's a crowd pleaser. And the little notable fact is hops are usually added to beer. That's why I thought maybe you could maybe show it to some of your beer geek friends who are over. And hops usually add bitterness to beer and fragrant aromas. And you've probably heard of hoppy beers that are out there that can be almost too bitter. But anyway, they do a good job of this. I wouldn't say this is bitter at all. It's not. It's very pleasing. In fact, dangerously pleasing. Remember, this can is about half a bottle. So I can tell you the director tried a few of these, and well, let's say the headache was pretty strong in the morning. So be careful with these ones because it goes down very, very well, and it's super smooth. So I think this is going to be a good crowd pleaser. Again, the Zinfandel, the Crazy Legs, and the Riesling, if you wanted to just stick with one of those wines, you'd be just fine. So if you had beer and one of those wines as an option, I think you'd have a great party. They're crowd-pleasing, very food-friendly, flexible wines. You'd be in very good shape. And I want you to enjoy your Super Bowl party, not only for your guests, but you need to enjoy the day too. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode where we look at some wines that you could serve at your Super Bowl party. And we picked wines that are really flexible enough that if you wanted to do one on their own or you wanted to do all three, you're in great shape. So a white wine, a Riesling from Washington, we have a Zinfandel from Lodi, California, and then we have this Crazy Legs, which is a red wine with hops. Who knew? So that might be a great novelty item to serve. Well, I also promised I would tell you about probably one of my favorite football snacks. And I guess I learned to enjoy football and Cheez-Its while I was living with my brother and sister-in-law. And he's a big-time sports fan, and he liked to watch all kinds of games. And it was really nice to sort of sit and watch a game with a big bowl of Cheez-Its. And if you haven't had Cheez-Its before, you do need to try them. So they're one of my go-to favorite snacks, really, of all time. And then, nothing like being a little decadent and opening a bottle of the J-Lore Cab to have with those Cheez-Its. Not a hugely expensive wine in the $10 to $15 range, and I really like J-Lore. I like all of their wines, and we visited, in fact, I went with my brother-in-law, and we visited J-Lore years back. Just great wine to have, and ones that you could open and not feel like you're spending too much money to have with Cheez-Its. So another great alternative wine for your Super Bowl party. We can open it, it's crowd-pleasing, goes with a lot of things, and just have a good time. Because really it's what the Super Bowl is for, right? Enjoying your friends and family and hanging out watching the game. So I hope you have a very wonderful Super Bowl party. Well, let's talk about wine and watching games. Sure has made me thirsty. So until next week's episode, everyone, cheers.